What's up, people? Welcome back again to the Over in 8 Minutes podcast with me, Sam Matthews. This week, you've seen the title, but I'm joined by a proper, soon-to-be and living legend of the motorsport world. I'm joined by Praga Cup 2022 driver, fully qualified driver coach. He's a Super 1 National Junior champ, Rage Sports Pro Sim racer. He's only 20 years old. He's the Lockerbie Lion. Gordie Mutch, how are you? Welcome to the show.
Yeah, very good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I'm always flattered whenever you should see the state of my DMs. It is literally so much just left unread. So anytime somebody about, I'm so grateful. It means so much.
Yeah, no worries. I mean, yeah, it's I actually really like the idea of podcasts, of like having a nice conversation. Like we were just saying, you know, a lot of with the interviews, like, you know, I don't mind it too much, but like it gets repetitional after a while. So, you know, having like a more laid back, you know, kind of thing is, yeah, it's quite enjoyable, really. So, yeah, no, it's absolutely my pleasure.
I love the oxymoron of racers describing when they like slow paced, like slow events. It's always a nice oxymoron for me. So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, like we live like so much of our lives like really quickly. So it's quite nice to take our time from time to time.
Well, we're going to get started with the iconic 3 questions, and then I've slipped in a few favourites for myself that I just want to talk about purely for me, never mind the listeners. So we're going to get started with one. What is your favourite bit of memorabilia that you own that you've managed to obtain over the years?
Well, it's actually something that my dad got, and it's actually downstairs in this new place. So I've kind of nicked it off of my dad. It's like a Colin McRae photo of him in the maybe Safari. I can't remember which rally it was, but you know, it's like this really lovely picture on the wall. It's and it's signed as well, which is really awesome. So and I've got that, like, you know, bang in front of the couch above the TV, you know, in the best spot possible. So yeah, that's
the motivation piece. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So when you're on your 3rd episode of a show on Netflix, you're like, probably should be doing something else by now.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Keeps me in the game.
Yeah, I like that a lot. So following on from that, what's one bit of memorabilia you'd love to hang up next to it? One that you don't currently own but you'd love to own?
Oh, I'm a big fan of, like, you know, racing helmets. You know, I loved Senna when growing up. So like I love, you know,
the iconic yellow.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, would love something like a Senna helmet or something like that. Yeah.
I know. I'd have to get a few more close looks to make my background more sturdy for a helmet, but I'd be the same as you. I think a helmet.
Yeah.
I think an iconic Coulthard helmet for me, I think, would have to be the one just because it's got the
with a huge salt, huge saltire. Yeah. No, it's an awesome helmet. That you could always tell that you're Scottish with the
joys of open cockpit racers. Bring them back, LMP1. Bring them back.
Yeah.
Everything's the same as red and white.
Yeah, well, mate, like a lot of the new hypercar liveries, a lot of them are so far red and white.
Oh no, it's not, except the Peugeot. I'm supporting the Peugeot purely on the premise that it's going to be grey.
Yeah. Well, we still need to see Lamborghini's livery, and it wasn't Penske. Jota have now.
Jota have they've got a Porsche, haven't they?
Yeah. So that'll be wicked. I think we're entering a golden age with the sport, big time. Like we are in a huge golden age of the sport.
RIP GT Pro, but we miss you. But gone but not forgotten.
Yeah, but we'll come back with GT3, I think. Maybe.
I hope so.
I guess we'll see. I'm not sure if the regulation. I think the regulation is you can have a GT Pro car if you have a car entered in the hypercar class, which I think is why so many of the manufacturers are entering hypercar.
All right, so it's going to be a case of hypercar sells all the stuff and pays for the GT3, so the GT3 is free.
Yeah, well, I think it's the other way around. I think,
really?
You
surely merchandise and stuff would.
Yeah, well, you see how huge GT3 is nowadays.
Yeah,
like the GT3 is easily the biggest racing series in the world.
Yeah,
and you know the huge thing with GT3 at the minute is the AM scene at the minute. So, you know, these manufacturers are making, you know, a huge amount of money through the AM drivers. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what's really helping to fund these big projects. Because you look at the hypercar project, and there's of course there's no AM drivers in that. It's all pro. No. So I think a majority of the funding will be coming from all the GT stuff. Yeah, it's awesome though. It's so awesome.
I know.
Like,
I love the fact, Patrick. I'll tell you an interesting story. So
yeah,
I am so obsessed with racing that I remember. So I know Patrick Dempsey as Dempsey Proton Racing, right?
yeah.
I had no idea he was an actor. So my girlfriend was once watching Grey's Anatomy, and I was like watching. I was like, where did Patrick Dempsey find the time to do a cameo in Grey's Anatomy? And she's like, what are you on about? Patrick Dempsey is the main character of Grey's Anatomy. And I was like, oh, well, that's good to know. I had no idea he was an actor.
Yeah, and then there's who's doing it now?
It's Fassbender's doing it now, isn't he?
Fassbender, Fassbender's Magneto.
I felt so sorry. Did you see? Every time he got in the car, it just seemed to spin out, and it wasn't even his fault half the time.
Yeah, Le Mans, like he finally made it to Le Mans this year, and then got taken out Indianapolis. Yeah.
Indianapolis. And he had another one at another one at the first chicane of Dunlop.
Yeah, he did. So it's just no luck there. Yeah, we'll see. Well, hopefully he comes back.
I mean, he's good. He's good. He's not there just as a name anymore now. He's a credible driver.
Yeah, no, he's he's a strong am. So I think it's your first Le Mans. I think very very few. There's a very small percentage of the time, if it's your first time at Le Mans, everything will go your way.
It was also different. I remember I've listened to a lot of interviews with drivers saying it was different that year as well, because obviously the first time fans were back for 3 years. So
yeah,
there was people that had done the race 3 times. They're like, it feels like I've never done it before because everything's different.
Yeah, exactly. You got to feel a little bit bad for the people doing Le Mans for the first time with no fans.
I know.
It's slightly bittersweet because fans make the sport. They really do.
Yeah. No, it's a proper fan sport for something that is. I remember somebody said to me once, it's like, oh, but you only see the car for a second every minute, or in the case of Le Mans, every 4 minutes. Yeah, but there's so much more going on that makes it a fan.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right, so I've been distracted, and we're here for the mammoth question of the podcast that every one of my friends deeply makes me regret putting in the intro when I first did the podcast. Bourbons or custard creams? Which one are you going for?
Custard creams, I'd say. Yeah, custard creams.
You're off the Christmas list. I'm a Bourbons man myself.
Are you? Right, yeah.
I must admit.
No, I'm a big fan of custard, so yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to agree to disagree on that one, but
no,
I won't hold it against you, Gordie. Don't worry. So now I've just got a few ones for me. So this might be a bit of a debate for us. This might go to something else, but I want us to compare what would be our dream Le Mans lineup. So the stipulations for this are they have to have raced at Le Mans. They can be from any class, but they're people, so they can either be like cult heroes of the sport, like maybe not the most prolific racer at Le Mans, but they're just a cult hero of Le Mans. And that's pretty much it. We can decide what car we want them to race in at the end, but let's assume they're going for the outright lead.
Okay.
So we'll do one each, and then we'll build a 3. Okay. Do you want to make an interesting rule where we can't pick the same person, or should we just have the same? It could be possible to have the same driver.
Well, yeah. No, I'd say that's fine.
Right then, you go first. I'll let you go first as the guest.
Got to go off the bat with Alan McNish, for sure. Mm-hmm. McNish for sure. Kind of modern hero.
First lap superstar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
God, who would I pick? I'm cheating at this because I kind of picked this question last night, so I've had it racking my brains while I was watching wrestling all night. So I would take, based on the past couple of years, I'd take Felix da Costa from Jota. Yeah.
Well, is this throughout the entire time period?
Yeah, go on. We'll have your entire time period.
Okay, wicked. You gotta go Ken Miles.
Yeah, great shout.
Legend himself. Yeah, Kenny Miles. Yeah.
You've got to take the GOAT, haven't you? You've got to take Christensen. You've got to have the most winningest driver at Le Mans.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good one. Beloff. Stefan Beloff.
What a dark horse shout, but I love that. That's a great shout.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna have to take Kobayashi, aren't I? Fastest lap.
All right. So you kind of went down the route of like kind of more
synonymous with Le Mans rather than
you kind of went for like a more kind of modern lineup.
I think I probably would. So like concussion history and stuff. Brain's not what it once was. So
the car.
Yeah. What car would you put them in?
I mean, are we like, this is talking about all time again?
Yeah, all time. You don't have to pick a car that you think would beat every car that's ever raced.
Yeah,
You just have to pick your car.
absolutely. F1 GTR,
Oh, a nice choice.
McLaren F1 GTR.
Mm-hmm. See, I'm torn. Do you pick one of the Porsches? Because obviously Porsche's the manufacturer of Le Mans, or do you pick an Audi Dominance? But I also love the 4GTs, like the original 4GTs. I think they're one of the most beautiful cars of all time.
The GT40s, yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think I would pick a GT40 just because I love them so much.
Yeah. All right, that's wicked. That's very 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 respectable. Yeah.
So you've got McNish, Miles, and Beloff racing in an F1 against Felix da Costa, Tom Christensen, and Kobayashi in a GT40.
Yeah.
That sounds like something somebody could make on a well-developed sim iRacing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a heavy bop would need to be applied to make the cars even.
Well, they do that anyway. Alpine looks like it might be slightly fast, and they go, 20 kilos of horsepower taken off there.
Turn it down. Yeah.
No, we can't have you win, so this wasn't part of the deal.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, that's how it goes.
So following up from that, what's your dream track to race at? What would be one track you would love to see you raced at?
One track that I'd love to say that I've raced at, Bathurst.
That's a nice shout. I wouldn't expect that as a shout. I like that.
Yeah, I'd probably go Bathurst, or I'm a big fan of Fuji.
I like Fuji.
Big fan of Fuji, so I'd go Bathurst, Fuji, probably Bathurst.
Just slightly Bathurst. I think, as no disrespect to Fuji, but I think Bathurst has a slightly more. I'd almost say
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, like, out of the two, like Bathurst is by far the more challenging.
Mm-hmm. I think there's a bit more of a prestige to Bathurst as well. I mean,
especially nowadays with the
12-hour. Yeah, that was chaos. Did you see some of the highlights from that?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, the start of the race in the fog. I mean, the Bathurst is already like a hard enough track, so
dead straight. Then we're going to send you up a mountain, and then we're going to send you down the mountain.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, see if you can make it round.
Wow. And then last one, dream car that you'd love to drive in a race, or just even going down the motorway. What one car you'd love to say I've driven one of those?
Again, F1 GTR. I think that's maybe my most favorite car of all time. Yeah,
it is a beautiful car.
Yeah,
a beautiful car. Nobody's going to hold it against you for saying that twice.
Yeah.
So we're going to start right at the beginning now that we've got those nice little. They were pure. A lot of those were purely for me. I'm going to be honest.
I know it is.
So I want to start at the very beginning. How did you find motorsport? I assume it was like a father-son type thing, as a lot of.
Yeah, it was. Sport. Yeah. My dad and uncles did hill climbs in a kind of DAX rush, which is I mean, the DAX is the proper way of saying it, but it was like along the lines of like a catering,
right?
Really really wicked thing, and we done hill climbs and sprints and stuff, and they were doing a sprint around this kart track called Boindy, which was really far up in the northeast of Scotland. And during the lunch break, there was carts going around, and I just wanted to go, had to go, just took it to like a duck to water, and from there just pestered my dad into getting me a cart, and then Santa gave me one for Christmas that year, and the rest is history, really.
Wow, I'm jealous. I remember there was nothing more I wanted in the world than a cart.
Yeah.
So tell me about the karting kids growing up. What's the scene like in Scotland as a karting kid? Because there'll be a lot of viewers from afar.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, the karting scene in Scotland was there was only 4 tracks in Scotland. You had Golspie, you had Boindy, you had Crail, and you had Larkhall.
Mm-hmm.
And it was quite a small community. It was a lot more laid back compared to like the British.
Yeah.
Larkhall was the main circuit. in Scotland. So people did a lot of club, like just that championship. But yeah, so we won the Scottish and then went into the British, and the British was a lot more competitive. Everyone took that a lot more seriously. So I say that the Scottish scene in karting was quite laid back. Yeah.
So I take it that was a lot more travel once you managed to hit the British scene. How old were you when all this was going on? Is this like pre-teen, sort of early teenager type age?
Absolutely. I can't remember what age I won the Scottish at, but I think at the time I was like the youngest ever to win the Scottish.
What a beautiful little humble flex there. I love that.
Yeah, I think at the time, I was, yeah.
Wow.
And yeah. Of course, like the traveling became too much for the British, so we had to move down south. So we're originally from Tariff, and all the kind of family lived in that area.
Right.
And we moved south to Lockerbie, which is a lot closer to the border, and that made traveling a lot easier. But obviously the traveling was still really really far compared to most. Yeah.
Wow. So that shows the commitment right there. You have to get involved. So I want to try to explain to the listener. There'll be a few that understand it, obviously, but there'll be some listeners that don't. To get into the world of karting, it's not a case of you show up and there is a kart for you. It is you have to buy your own car. You trim the tires, make sure they're lined up correctly.
Absolutely, yeah. Karting is expensive is an understatement. I think motorsport in general is just extremely expensive. But yeah, karting is too expensive because it's meant to be for kids to get into the sport.
Yeah.
And nowadays it's inaccessible for families that don't have budget, and that's a big problem, because you're denying young drivers that have some potentially extraordinary talent. You're denying them even the chance, as it's a very 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 obviously it's a very very hard problem to solve. But yeah, I mean, and it gets really competitive as well. Even from the junior categories, it's like things like the tires. There was, when I was back in X30, the tires was like a certain barcode. You had to buy tires that had certain barcodes on them because they were slightly softer, because the factory went through different phases with the tire.
Wow.
We'd have a room in the house where we had like a spare room or something that we tried to keep as warm as possible, and have the tires in there so that the tires were a little bit softer. So we didn't put any chemicals on the tire, but we kept them in a warmer room to make the tire to try and make the tire softer so it perform a bit better.
Wow.
But you look at the Europeans nowadays, and up front with a really really good team to do the junior world championships for a season, you're looking at 250 grand up front, and it's just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
That's like 10 years worth of salary for some people as well.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of the time, in terms of making a career in cars, people don't overly look at karting.
No. Also, because I remember that used to be quite a sort of traditional path route. Certainly when I've watched documentaries, like, Schumacher's documentary was recently on Netflix, and that was quite prominent that his karting was what transcended him to cars.
Yeah.
So is that sort of changing now in modern days? Is that so? Are we going on a bit of a tangent?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. So, I mean, nowadays, like I said, karting has become far too expensive.
Yeah.
So, sim racing is a more of an alternative now. I'd say it's still tricky to get the opportunities through sim racing. However, it is becoming more and more. It's happening more and more often, and it will be more and more of popular route into motorsport as the years come. Yeah.
Well, you've touched on that beautifully. It's almost like you can see my notes. I was going to ask you, so as you were growing up, sim racing was becoming this more and more. I liken it to graphs. So karting was sort of up here, instead of going, "Oh, you're just watching this exponential growth of sim racing." How did you first come upon sim racing? Was it just a case of you just used to love playing the games to get a feel of like you were racing the track?
Started off with Grid.
Oh, what game? What throwback game?
Grid Autosport, I think it was. I can't remember. It might have been Grid Autosport, something like that. And I had my first ever wheel was like one of the really old Fanatec wheels, which is
I used to rock one of those Xbox ones. You know, the ones that were like an extra like 15, 20 quid.
Yeah, exactly. So like, which is actually like quite cool because of course that was my first sim racing wheel. Of course now we're working with Fanatec, which is really cool. And obviously, got into a bit that way, but that was more of a kind of play thing, just like how a kid would have an Xbox. But yeah, definitely around 2018 got more into sim racing with Project Cars 2, which was, it didn't have the great physics or whatever, but that was my first taste of esports. Got into this team called VP. It doesn't do too much sim racing anymore, but that was like one of the top teams in there. Done really well there, and then moved across to iRacing, and built my way up on there. And during lockdown, I kind of got fed up. Like, iRacing is the most competitive sim on earth.
I don't even touch it for exactly that reason.
It's so difficult. Some of the people, like, the big thing with iRacing, what you see is you see other sims like RF2, and the pros from RF2 come across to iRacing, and 80-90% of the time they can't do it.
Really?
Yeah,
it's just, RF2 is the one they use for the virtual Le Mans, isn't it? They
yeah,
don't use iRacing.
Yeah. I mean, like, on RF2 they're incredible, really fast, but on iRacing they're just not there. But for iRacers, they come on to RF2, and majority of the time they're actually quicker than the pros on there. So the best drivers are definitely on iRacing.
Okay.
Full stop. But the best drivers in sim racing are definitely on iRacing.
Okay, so that's kind of like that's like almost the big leagues of sim racing. Then
it is, yeah. That's where you find the most the fastest and the most competitive, most talented drivers in the world. On with regards to sim racing, is on iRacing. And I got to a point during lockdown where it's just like, wow, I'm really competitive, and I just didn't like being slower than these guys. So I decided to upgrade my sim, and I decided to just put in more effort and see if I could become a professional on that as well. And I did. And got an email one day from Roman Grosjean, from that team, and I've been with them ever since. Tell about my background, yeah.
I was going to say, it was nice there. I like having like the nice backdrop. I was saying this before you came in here. I was like, it's always good when the guest has a better backdrop and like set up than you. It's like it kind of looks like they're the professional.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of out the way. Like when I'd actually be racing, I'd actually have it directly behind me, but it's over there for now, just so I can get in and out easier.
We're on casual mode today. I won't.
On casual mode, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, it's just day off today. Day off for both.
It is, day off today, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So, I've just thought of a nice question that I kind of want to. We're going to talk about Roman Grosjean and obviously the Rage Esports racing team.
Yeah.
How would you? So you said iRacing's like the pinnacle, like that's where the best and the best go. If somebody came to you next time you're at the track and somebody says, I want to give sim racing a go, like I've not got 250 grand to go karting in the European Championships, would you say just go straight into iRacing and just go, that is the minimum you need to be at? or would you say, you know, do the RF2s, do the GT7, and then work your way through?
I mean, yeah, I would probably recommend going to iRacing, because I'd say that is probably more representational in terms of technique,
Right.
especially with, you know, things like braking, braking techniques, and iRacing. A lot of the time, you need to really protect the tire and under drive it. And RF2 allows a lot of slip, which means you can send it into a corner, drift it round, and you'll still be really fast. So it's probably better to learn on iRacing from a driver's perspective, in terms of real life, because in real life, you know, if you're driving nice and smooth, that's always when you're at your quickest, nice and calculated. But yeah, like working yourself up to a pro level in iRacing, and do, you know, try to do world championships and stuff. And there's a lot you see, like, and just wait for an opportunity. You know, there's a lot more opportunities popping up now where if you win a championship on the sim, you'll get a drive in real life.
So you mean, so you say these championships, are these like, you know, just community type leagues, then you go from there, or
no, like, you
is
know,
there like
these
official
are,
leagues they run?
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, wow.
You know, official things run by iRacing, and then some
Are these
some
just
other
open to the
things.
public, or do you have to
Yeah,
meet a
no,
criteria?
open for everyone. A lot of the time, the only criteria um, is, you know, maybe an age, to make sure if you win the championship, you're old enough
We
to
can pay
race.
you, yeah.
Yeah, like to make sure, like, you know, if you win this, congratulations on winning. You're only 15. You're not old enough to drive a car. You know.
Ah, right, okay.
Yeah. So like, but apart from that, it's open to everyone. Yeah.
Oh, right. But that brings me on to my next question. What makes sim racing so good? And I think we both agreed when we were talking about this in text, it is the fact that all you literally need is, you don't even need the sim, actually. You can do it with just a controller.
Yeah, absolutely. It's probably a lot better on iRacing. I think you get destroyed if you're on controller, but I think, yeah, the accessibility of it is the biggest thing, because you don't really need the best equipment. There's a lot of fantastic sim racers out there that don't have the best equipment but are just very, very talented. I think in racing nowadays, I think it's no secret that there's some very talented drivers that deserve to be higher. There's drivers that are in positions that they're in, with budget.
You mean like a you buy your seat situation?
Yeah.
Because like it's no secret. I don't think anybody begrudges you for saying that. There, it's a well known fact that you can buy your seat in certain situations.
Absolutely, yeah. So I think, you know, there's definitely, you know, places where, you know, maybe you know, a more talented driver in you know, in a, but, you know, business is business.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, so, you know, it's
that's no
tough,
fault of the team as well, is it?
Teams need to make money. So understand that, you know, it is a business at the end of the day. I'd say one of the big beauties of sim racing is that isn't an aspect. When it comes down to the world championships in iRacing or other things in LMVS, you're guaranteed 100% that the you know, 20-30 drivers on that grid, or in LMVS, whatever it is, how many drivers, like the drivers there are genuinely unhindered by budget, and therefore they are the best in the world, and you have the most competitive grid there in the world. I find it a lot harder to win, you know, at the top level in sim than in real life.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is
because
actually quite a
there's no
statement as
limit
well,
on practice either. You know, there's like, you know, you see some drivers are, you know, in the feeder series and everything, are down the road on other drivers because they've done so much more testing. They've got a lot more budget there. In sim racing, you don't have that. You can practice whenever you want for how long as you want. So when it actually comes to it, you know, the say, you know, like it's that top level. So yeah, I think that sim racing is stupendously competitive. Stupendously competitive. It's incredible. It really is incredible. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I've been really getting into it recently. I've always known about it, and then I've been watching so much of it now. And it's like you said, it's because it's what you know. People always complain like, oh well, if we put them all in the same cars, then we'd see who the pro driver. It's like that's what sim racing kind of is, you know. Like,
Yeah,
if you
yeah. I
watch
mean,
that,
it still comes down to setup and everything. It's a
yeah,
huge part of it. But I mean, like theoretically, yeah.
because
It's
they were. I think the Le Mans Virtual was all based off the same model, wasn't it? It was all based off the same LMP2 model. But then, like you said, you had tuning factors and
yeah, setups and stuff. But I mean, the same teams were up there every time. So it's about
yeah,
putting in the work. It's just the same as real life. When you look at the
yeah.
single, like whether it's Le Mans, everyone's on the same chassis in LMP2, but it's down. A lot of the time you see United teams
Yeah.
like United that they're always up there. It's the quality. Yeah.
What was it? There was 26. Was it 26 Ligiers and one? What was the other one? It was 26 and one. I remember that from LMP2. There was one row chassis.
Yeah. I can't
I
remember
think
what it was.
I can't no, but I think everybody was rooting for them in the heart of hearts. Just everybody loves the
Yeah.
underdog story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
So you've been teasing it for a few minutes now, and I'm pretty sure everybody wants to hear it. What's it like getting an email from Romain Grosjean going, I want you to be part of my team"? Like that is an established F1 name and now established IndyCar name.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wicked.
You said that so
obviously,
casually.
it's like
yeah.
we obviously look up to these guys. So to have for them to want you in their team because of you've displayed skill and talent, etc. is a really big achievement in itself.
Mm-hmm. So say that was 2020 they contacted you, or was it 2019?
It was 2021, I think.
Well,
2021. Yeah.
Some COVID era time, whenever that was.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
when the world went to shit, that's when they contacted.
Basically, yeah.
So being part of an esports team, what's that like? Because I find it so. My world is rugby. I love motorsport is my first love, but rugby was the sport I could play and do, probably because of the entry fee, as we were discussing earlier. But yeah, so being an esports member, because I'm very much a pack your bag, go to training, go to the gym, do whatever you need to do, get on the team bus. How does an esports team work? Like, do you have like regular meetings? Is there like training sessions on? I assume it's like almost like a lobby type session. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, the contacts are very, very close. Communication's obviously key. And for these big events, there are plenty of practice sessions together. We all need to understand the car. The unique thing is, you need to have a very good feel of the car, but in these endurance races, everyone needs to have a good feel for the car. So you need to set up the car for the team, not for the driver.
That was going to be my next question. So in the pit stops, that can you change the settings within a parameter, or is it
no?
This is the tuning for the race?
Yeah, basically, like when you say have the setup applied, that's it for the race. There's very few things that you can change. Like some cars, like the IndyCar and Supercar, you can change the roll bars just like in real life.
Nice.
But in other cars, it's basically just brake bias, ABS settings, traction control. Yeah, pretty minimal. Just like in real life, really.
Wow. So how does a normal week of an esports team look like? What's the normal schedule looking like? Say it's like a race weekend.
Race week. Yeah. Well, a lot of the time, some people might have worked during the day. So but basically every day, there'll be a session on the lead up to a big race event. You'll be practicing every day together for a few hours for a really big event. Like something like Bathurst 12, Spa 24 hour. You have some drivers, some teams putting in 30, 40 hours individually each. so a huge amount of time.
That's a full. Not to sound like as shocked as it might across, but like to put that in perspective, that's almost a full conventional 9 to 5 working week just on the sim.
Yeah. Like a lot of people like talk about speed running, in games or whatever. I think sim racing is maybe one of is people don't look at it, but I mean you have to be. We're trying to be within a few hundreds over every single lap for every single driver over 24 hours, maximizing everything on fuel, on tires, everything. It is, it's really, really, it's full on.
I think it was McNish. He said they're not looking for drivers anymore. You're looking for fighter pilots that are happy to be on land because you need to have such control and composure to be able to, like you said, like adjust brake bias, adjust ABS.
Yeah, like you have to think about strategy. You need to be clever behind the wheel. You need to pick and choose your battles. You have to be so especially in endurance race, like in a sprint, you can go a lot more flat out. You got limited time there, so you can take more risks. But in endurance, in an endurance setting, you need to drive at a pace that is, very, very, very fast. Drive almost as quick as you can, but still have 5% in reserve.
I was gonna say, so you're almost aiming for like a 95 percentile.
Yeah, basically. Well, you almost want to have like a kind of like 100% pace while still having 5% in reserve, not taking risks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like it's kind of like 100%. Like it's a weird thing to say, but 100% pace while still having 5% in reserve, which I know is kind of impossible, but it's something that I've learned a fair bit about over the past like as this year especially, just maturing as a driver and whatnot. Yeah.
So a quick sidetrack. Comparing your racing in the real world, IRL, if we're going to be hip with the kids, and the sim racing world, does that affect your mentality in a race? Because obviously there's a lot less chance, like we've said at the start, you're not going to wreck a car in sim racing. Obviously you'll put the team out of the race or in the pits for a few hours, but you're not going to wreck somebody's car and think, I've got to go back to the paddock and explain to this man why it's in a wall.
I never struggle with separating the two. I know some people are like, well, I don't want to do too much sim because it affects the way that I drive in real life. But for me, I don't have any issue going from sim to real life. Wow. If anything, it's the other way around for me. Like it takes me a little bit. After a racing weekend, it takes me a little. It takes me like an hour to get back into the get used to the sim again because it's a different feel. Wow. But yeah, no, I don't really have any issue switching from sim to real life. For me, I treat the two differently. Yeah.
Okay. So is it like almost flicking a switch? Kind of, you're just like, okay, I'm in a real car now. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
That's it. That's interesting because we're going to come on to a topic later where I really want to talk about the mentality of driving the cars. But before that, we're going to come out of the online universe and we're going to talk about the GT5 challenge that you're obviously taking part in 2020. So we're going back a couple of years now. How do you get the call up for races like that? Like, how do you get discovered going from the karting in the sim world?
Yeah. Well, like for the team that I was with, Fox.
Shout out Fox.
Yeah, shout out Fox.
It's probably the most vague shout out I could have done there.
Yeah, Fox are fantastic. With Paul and Jamie at Fox, they're just fantastic guys. They called me up for a shootout because they saw what I did in karting and whatnot. And in my initial year in cars, the junior saloons, after all the wins and podiums and that, really successful year. That was my first ever years in cars, so made a big splash. So I got invited to the driver shootout, and we won the driver shootout, and then that's how I ended up. Yeah.
So there was like a proper the prize for winning this race or shootout, as you call it, is you lot are going to go around this track, and the one that comes back first is getting in this chair.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Wow, that is really cutthroat and dog
Yeah,
eat dog, really.
it is. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's it's of course we find out on the day as well. We finish the runs. Whoever's fastest gets the drive. And,
Also, it's like time trial, not fly race.
yeah, like exactly. So we're all, we all headed out kind of one by one in the same car, and yeah, whoever was fastest got the drive.
Here's the question: in a time trial, do you want to be the one that goes out first, or do you want somebody to have? Because I assume like nobody's going out on cold tires, because that's unfair on the person that hits the track.
No, like of course they made it 100% fair, made it 100% fair. So the same gap, made sure everything was right. Because of course they want, for their benefit as well, they want to make sure that they're getting the fastest driver. So you don't want any external factors with oh well, this will send out this person straight after, and different tire pressure. They made it 100% equal. Yeah.
Wow. So I was reading somewhere that you said the GT5 is still actually currently the favorite car, the favorite car you've raced so far. Does that still stand the test of times? Because I was watching some of the highlights the other day doing research for this, and like you look like you were having fun throwing that thing around.
Yeah, absolutely. So like the Genettas have like a really good place in my heart. They taught me a lot. It's like especially the GT5 because it's on the slick tire. It's a really really fickle car. So yeah, no, it's definitely one of my favorites. I think more with the classics now. I think some of the more favorite cars that I've raced is like BMW 1800 Tisa, which I'll be racing again. I think at the Silverstone Classic. Jaguar type as well, with the lightweight. That thing is awesome. Cooper Sterling Moss's Cooper Bobtail, like his factory car, the factory Cooper Sterling Moss Bobtail from 1955. That thing's really really cool as well. Yeah.
How does it feel getting in that car, thinking Sterling Moss sat here and raced this car?
Yeah, it's.
Do you allow yourself to have that little split second of just going, "This is a take it in moment"?
Yeah, I do. When I'm sat in the car getting ready, but I think once the visor comes down and the lights go out, your job remains the same, whatever car you get into, and that's to go out and go fast. So the job remains the same for me, whatever car I get into. Yeah.
Wow. I'm gonna have to give you the nickname of the cyborg because you seem like you are lethal as soon as that visor comes down.
Yeah.
So following on from the GT5 Cup, you took up the Praga Cup towards the end of 2021. You came and joined that team for a few races at the end. How does the Praga differ from the GT? Because obviously downforce, all these different factors, just a completely different car.
Yeah, huge difference. For me, I think one of the biggest things that I kind of pride myself on, and one of my skills. One of the biggest weapons in my armor is how fast I'm able to get up to speed in a car that I've never driven before.
Okay.
I like finding the speed fast, because obviously we're on limited time. We don't have a lot of testing. And that's one of the big things I learned with not having any budget. I don't like to waste time. So I get out, I get up to speed, and then I can focus on having the rest of the day and finding either final tenths.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, so like with the Praga, I remember hopping in. The aerodynamics came very naturally to me. Was very very comfortable with it straight away. So yeah, once again,
I think that was evident from your races as well. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, of course, I actually did 2021 with Eaton, Abby Eaton from the Grand Tour.
Yeah.
Initially, and Abby was great. She was very very lovely. And then of course at the end of the year, hopped into the car with Jimmy, and managed to help him achieve his goal of getting the podiums.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, I came across you in 2021 Praga Cups where I first started noticing your name and really paying attention,
Yeah,
and that was the thing to me. So I like what you're saying there. So that almost sounds like a valuable skill because I've never thought about it until you mentioned there. There's very few drivers that only drive the one car all year round. So it's all good being fast in your favorite car again and again and again, but it's almost like a skill you should really focus on is your ability to find what makes each car tick you
yeah.
get in. Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, like, for me, you look at a lot of other drivers my age,
Mhm.
and a
You're
lot of them
20 years old, by the way. What a
20 years old.
fantastic achievement at 20 years
Yeah.
old.
So a lot of other drivers my age will you look at the high majority of them and they're only driving one car for an entire season.
Mm-hmm.
For me, to make sure, that, obviously, um, but budget is a huge thing that I always have in mind because it's something that we just don't have. So it just means that I need to work that bit harder. So if I can make a bit of money with racing the classics, then absolutely I'll do it. And yes, like I think the classics is great for. It's also really really good for learning mechanical sympathy as well because
Right.
these cars are a lot older. They're a lot more susceptible to things like over revving. You need to take care of the brakes, especially in something like a Jaguar E-Type. So yeah, it teaches you a lot of skills. But yeah, a high majority of drivers my age uh, will only drive one car for the entire year. So like what I'm doing is quite unique in that aspect where, in a single year I'll end up driving, 6 to 7 different types of cars.
Wow. So I assume the other drivers kind of develop a bit of like almost complacency, not complacency as in they're getting lazy approach to it, but you assume all cars will have the same characteristics then, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So like, I mean, that you need the thing is like you need to get up to speed fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you don't have the full budget for testing, but you still need to do it in the right way. You can't rock up and you can't be bashing the curbs out in lap one. That's not what I
Mm-hmm.
mean. You need to build up the speed in a calculated way, but do it very very quickly. And there's a real skill to that, because you can imagine, for manufacturers looking in from the outside, if you're rocking up and in the very first practice session you're putting the car off the track, and the car's damaged, it's not good. You need to go everything that you do has to be professional. Absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's that's really it's actually I love hearing these type of in-depth nuances that you only hear from people that do what you guys
Yeah,
do.
yeah,
So I forget I'm hosting a podcast. It's a real problem because I become so invested in the story. I'm like, oh, this is so interesting. I think you're the one asking him the next question. You're like, oh, great.
yeah.
So we're gonna move on now. So this was just before you were in the Pragas again. How did you feel when Motorsport News magazine mentioned you as one of the 10 rising stars for British motorsport?
Yeah, no, I remember that well. Yeah, that was yeah, that was really really cool because you're getting mentioned next to other drivers that are definitely at the top of their game in the rising sport. These are drivers that are already affiliated with manufacturers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was a really good, a really really nice achievement, and yeah, I mean, yeah, it was really nice to get some recognition.
Did that do these sort of events, so when you get these like national magazine papers, whatever we want to call them, journalism publishers, do you find these linked to steps in the career? Like, do these sort of go one by one? Like, do you find you get like you notice certain followers on Twitter that you think, I wonder if they would have followed me a month ago before that and stuff like this?
Um, a tiny bit, yeah, but I think even if you're doing a good job, you still need to put the work in because of how cutthroat and how brutal motorsport is. Unfortunately, like I said earlier, teams
Mm-hmm.
need to make money. So just because you're one of the top 10 rising stars in Britain, if you don't have if you don't have any budget to bring to the table, you're not going to be in the car.
Right.
So yeah, you need to work bloody
That's
hard with it. And
baffling.
the better way to do it is, like if you don't have a lot of budget, you need to work hard with things like driver coaching and instructing and pick up, get a good reputation there, and then get a hold of AM drivers and make a career that way. Yeah.
Wow, that's so baffling to me because, as I said, my knowledge is rugby, and if you're listed as one of the 10 best up and coming rugby players in Scotland or Britain, a high chance you're probably going to be a professional rugby player. You might not be the greatest ever lived, but you're probably So
well, I think manufacturers do take notice of that though. So I mean, like you can still have things like driver shootouts, and that you really do need to make the most of those things.
Okay.
So
these are kind of like a foot in the door situation, and then it's up to
absolutely.
You to prove it,
from there, you need to build on that, and you just like at that point, when you get named as one of the top 10 rising stars in the entire of the UK, and the UK is arguably the most competitive country in the world for racing drivers. I'd say that quite confidently. Once you're placed in that position where you're being named as one of the top 10 rising stars in one of the most in the most competitive country in the world in terms of motorsport, that's the point where you really need to make sure that what you're doing in that spotlight is you're executing your job well. You don't want to be messing up, and you just need to be doing a good job presenting yourself well, because that's the point where manufacturers will look at you and decide whether you're of interest to them.
Wow, so it's kind of like a double-edged sword in a weird way then, because so your name, so the way I'm envisioning it now is everybody else would see your name on the grid and go, I need to beat that guy because he's apparently one of the best. So
yeah,
did you find that happens?
Yeah.
Or is everybody just really nice and go, congratulations?
Yeah. I think there's not. I wouldn't say there's too much of that, but I think definitely if you're getting named as one of Britain's most rising stars, you straight away become someone that people wants to beat.
Mm-hmm.
If you're getting named into things like the BRDC as a rising star, then obviously you're going to be a person that people want to beat because they want to be a rising star.
Yeah, the old cliche of you be the best, you got to be the best.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Wow. So we've talked nicely, and now I think this has led nicely onto sort of mental aspect of motorsport that we've kind of touched on and really wanted to segment it here. But there's a lot of noise in motorsport, and this is coming from a guy on the outside looking in. There is so much noise. Like if you're in the big leagues or you're even not like just your circle, everybody seems to be talking about something or other, and there's very little talk about the track. Like we've spoken about at Le Mans, it's either what cars are coming in here next year, and we're already talking about the 2023 hypercar season, and it's still only halfway through 2022. How do you mentally deal with all external factors and being able to go, like, for example, just going, I need to go sit on the sim and race in what can, because it's not a game, it's never a game, it is a simulation. But to the external pressures, a lot of people might just go, he's playing a game. So how do you block out these external factors and go, what I'm doing is work, it is this. I need to be in this zone. That was a very long-winded question to say. How does your thought process work? But
I mean, for me, the way that I analyze it is, do I personally feel that it's benefiting and enhancing my skills? Is it benefiting me? If the answer is yes, and if I'm executing my job well, then for me that's that. It's quite easy for me. I don't base the way I prepare off of other people. I base it off of how I'm performing.
Nice.
And if I'm performing well, if I'm doing better than other people, if I don't see much room for improvement, then must mean that I'm doing something right.
I love that. I really like that. Of I know I'm doing what's right and what's best for me, and if until that day that stops being the case, I'm not changing it. I really, really like that. So you've touched nicely there. Pre-race routines in terms of only a physical warm up, but a mental warm up. Do you have a routine? Because I know a lot of drivers do same exercises in the same order.
Yeah. I mean, I see, I see the benefit of doing like things like, a bit of skipping or, just like getting physically warmed up because, it can be quite, full on in the car.
Taxing. Yeah.
But I mean, I've never been much of one for rituals or, a lot, I know a lot of drivers do, kind of like, you know, visioning techniques and stuff. But I've never really felt the need for it. I mean, I've always felt very, very comfortable with getting in the car and going.
Wow.
So yeah, I don't really do too many of those techniques. I feel, I mean, like, I feel so, comfortable in cars. I feel, very, very one with the car. I don't really feel that I really need to. I just feel so comfortable in the car that of course physically, if anything, the only preparations I have is just making sure that my body is ready
Okay.
in terms of fitness. Um, but apart from that, but that's more in between race meetings, like through the
Yeah.
weeks and stuff. But apart from that, yeah, I just feel so comfortable in the car that I don't really feel the need to build myself up to it. I can just get in and go because I have faith in my ability that I can perform every single time I sit in a car.
Wow. So there's no. I know you just mentioned the visionary techniques there. So is there no? I don't even know how to describe it. Like, do you not have that? I'm really struggling to picture the way the word goes. So there is no. You almost. I describe it as like almost flicking a switch. Then in the
Yeah,
cliche terms of what you're doing.
there's no routine.
Yeah.
I can get it and go. I don't try to prepare myself. I don't build up to it. I've just got that kind of confidence in my ability that I will be able to do the same job every single time I get
Right.
into a car.
So
So
do you find your mentality changes on race day then? Are you quite a serious person, or are you so at one with the car and what you know you're about to do that you're kind of almost like we said before, you're happy chappy until somebody goes get in, visor goes down, it's almost like a different person's now sat in the car.
no, I try to be as professional as possible because I think it can be, you don't want to be dropping your guard,
Yeah.
and it doesn't matter how confident you are in your ability, you can't become arrogant.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. There's a big difference there. You can be really confident in your own ability and not be arrogant. And the arrogance comes in, where you're laughing, joking around. You need to act as professional as possible on the race day, and you need to do every job right, and you can't neglect things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I still, you know, make sure to study the data, and you know, I make sure as well, especially when you have an AM driver like Jimmy, who I'm racing with this year.
Mm-hmm.
When you have an AM driver as a pro, they are despite of age, they are looking up to you because you are the professional. So you have to act accordingly because they are
Yeah.
going to be influenced by the way that you act. So you need to be very, very professional in those occasions to be a good
Okay.
role model, um, and set an example for for them.
So
So yeah,
like
that's really
the older
important.
brother aspect almost kicks in.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah, but it's just like you need to be the team leader
Mm-hmm.
because especially with Jimmy this year, because last year was his first ever year in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this year, I'm properly taking a pro driver
Yeah.
status. I'm leading the team in setup. I'm leading the team in driver coaching. I set the direction of you know, our schedule and what we do across the Friday, who's going to be in the car, when, for how long, what are we going to do in these run plans, what are we going to, what, where are we going to go with setup, you know. So, you know, my you know, I'm very, very busy on these weekends. So, you know, in terms of, you know, like a ritual getting into the car, I don't have much of one. However, I am very, very focused, and I do take the job incredibly, incredibly serious on the weekends, because it is, you
Yeah,
know, my,
it's a
you
job.
know,
It is a job.
my living, my success in my career depends on it. So yeah, absolutely. You know, I do take it seriously, and I don't like to cut corners. You know, I want to make sure that I'm doing everything right.
Wow. I mean, I feel motivated and professional just having that conversation with you.
Mm.
You don't seem to have any pressure, but I've got pressure because you're not even just the driver, like you said anymore. Like your job doesn't finish when you get out the car. You're doing all these, reading the data,
Yeah,
monitoring.
yeah, absolutely. That's the huge thing with having an AM driver, especially.
Yeah.
Your job does not end once you get out the car.
Yeah.
You need to be a good driver coach. You need to be good with giving feedback, uh, you know, to the engineers, to the mechanics, and you need to be really, really good at understanding data. The biggest thing is you need to be good at translating this information back to your AM driver.
Yeah.
You know, because every single driver learns in a different fashion. They learn at a different rate. They respond better to certain ways of driver coaching, whether it's the comfortness or whether it's the directness, and you need to figure that out. So, you know, yeah, your job only just starts when you get out of the car, when you've got an AM driver, and
Wow.
that's really, really important, really important.
I love that, and I want to clip what you said, and I want to send it to everybody
Yeah,
because like that attitude of you're a team leader, you're a team captain, quote unquote,
yeah, absolutely,
whatever
yeah.
sport wants to call it, that is applicable to everybody. When you are a senior player and you've got a senior player, senior racer, senior swimmer, whatever you want to call yourself, when you get to the ground or the training pitch or whatever it is, you are there as an example, not only as a player, as a performer, as an athlete.
Yeah, well,
And I think, yeah,
monkey see, monkey do. You know, so you know, like you need to, especially big time with junior drivers. When you're driver coaching the junior drivers,
yeah,
that is that's a huge aspect of it. You know, because
wow,
obviously, you know, they're a lot younger. They really do look up to you, and obviously, you know, every almost every kid ends up, you know, acting or being very similar to the way their parents act, because you know that's they
that's how you're
they're
raised.
they're
Yeah,
they're gonna act the same way as their parents did. That, you know, that it's a huge influence. And if you're in a coaching role, you know, they're going to more or less, you know, they're also going to kind of copy the way that you work, and the way that you do things. I mean, like for me, you know, Jamie Stanley, who's has been a huge part of my career. You know, I don't think I could have had a better role model in that aspect. I think the way that I kind of operate, the way that I work, the way that I driver coach, is certainly based off of him, which I'm really, really thankful for. Like in like, you know, in motorsport. But I think that in general is a perfect example in itself. That, you know, because I've spent, you know, a good few years with, you know, learning off of Jamie, that I definitely, you know, kind of mirror a lot of the way that he works. And for me now, you know, I understand that, you know, it's the same for me with AM drivers or with junior drivers, that the way that I act has to be has to be positive, because they're going to be watching, and they're going to be observing, and they're going to be learning from that to take on themselves.
wow. I mean, I have, especially as I can't get over this, just because whenever I talk to somebody younger than me, I quite often compare them to where I was at that age, and I was a little shit. Like, I was just, I could do no wrong. Like nothing.
I still am. I still am. Yeah. It's
just don't show
I
other
know,
people.
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Absolutely.
No, Gordie, mate, I'm not even saying this just because you're here. I just from talking to you for that, I have the utmost respect for you. And
yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you.
While we talk about the external factors, there was one subject I want to talk about, and I know it's a very personal subject to you, but I think it's a great example of having the vision to go on and get on with the job, but also keep going on. If it's all right with you, is it all right to talk about the situation with your mum at the moment and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Can you just for the listeners as well? Can you just almost tell the story and then explain how you managed to maneuver around those situations while you race?
So earlier this year on the 3rd of January, my mum, bless her, she had quite a heavy stroke, which of course I was there to see it all, and of course that was a huge in our lives as a family. We needed to change a lot of things because, of course, I think my mum definitely made sure that we weren't going to be late to anything. She sorted a lot of stuff out. So I think the family's function was
the mother's role,
heavily reliant on my mum.
Yeah,
obviously this is
shout out to all mothers for that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but this was hugely flipped on its head when she had her stroke, because we didn't really know what the future would be like, and I think she was in hospital for about 2 months, maybe more. It was a long time. But of course, this year as well, as I'm getting on in my career, I think arguably this year I have to perform, because I we don't have, like, we're not, we can't put any money in as a family. We don't have anything. So this means that I'm having to perform with a lot of external pressure, and that's a hard thing. I think it's something really, really valuable that I've learned is you can really take a lot of kind of from energy from a situation that's going on difficult, and use it to kind of refocus yourself to a point where it's like obviously my dad's at home now a lot of the time with my mum, so it's like okay, my dad isn't going to be at the racing as much and everything. So it's like, well, I need to make sure now that I'm really, really hitting my marks. I need to make sure this year is really, really good in order to make sure that I'm going to be stepping forward in my career. So the biggest thing this year is kind of turning a bad situation and using it as kind of mental fuel in order to perform at the highest level possible. And that's something that I've learned a lot about this year. And so something, a skill that I think will be super, super important for the rest of my life. But initially that that was a really, really tough situation. But she's doing a lot better now, obviously. Still got a long road with recovery, but we couldn't be prouder of our mum, and we wouldn't have it any other way. Absolutely. We love her very much, and we're very, 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 very proud of her. And it's been as bad as the situation has been, I think in terms of like a mental aspect and a maturing aspect, in that aspects, as long as you do it in a good way, it's been very, kind of learned a lot. But you can I've definitely turned around to try and make it as beneficial as possible.
Wow. So you've taken the approach of this situation, because what you've done is you've actually got a very mental, like a strong mental fortitude there to go, I know nothing I can do changes the situation now. So I've got to harness the
Absolutely.
energy and emotions that's produced and channel it.
Yeah,
It's a really
absolutely.
commendable thing. Really,
Absolutely. That the situation really, really fucking sucks. But you can either sit around, let affect you, or you can try use it as well as you can to propel you forward. And that's that's what I've done, and it certainly helps with the performances this year.
Well, Gordie, as I just said, I'm not saying this just because you're here. The mental fortitude in yourself and the attitude you take, even the attitude you had to this when we were talking, and the positivity you show is truly inspiring. I really mean that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's great.
Hey, folks, sorry to interrupt the podcast there, but we've got good news. I'm doing a competition, and it's got a grand prize of 50 quid, and it's so easy. You'll notice now, if you go into Gran Turismo 7, the Over in 8 Minutes podcast logo is now available on the showcase for you to take on and edit and put on your own liveries. The competition is going to be who can design the coolest Over in 8 Minutes podcast Group 3 car. There's no stipulation to what car it has to be, but if you make it a car that's quite up with the meta right now, there's probably more chance it's going to get used and it's going to get seen. The only stipulations are you have to include like, subscribe, and all the streaming podcasts. You have to have the Over in 80 Minutes podcast logo. You have to have the RAG Sports logo. And Gordie will send me over a logo, which I will put on social media, that you have to have included as well. Those are the only stipulations. To enter, you have to follow us on Twitter, follow us on Instagram, at Gordie Mutch Racing, at Over in 80 Minutes podcast. Each follow counts as a second entry, so you technically get double the chance of winning if you enter by following us on both. Tag us in the photos so we can see them. It helps us see. I will deal with the notifications. Gordie's going to hate me for that, but it'll be a couple of days of notifications. Sorry, Gordie.
That's all right.
How this is going to go, after we've selected what we believe to be the top 3, Gordie and I are going to get back on another call, have a quick discussion, compare, rate, talk about what we like, and then we're going to select the grand winner, and we will send you 50 quid. All done by the Over in 8 Minutes podcast. Thank you guys very much for listening. This is the way I want to give back to you, and it means we can all have a bit of fun as a community. So get it made. The competition is going to end. This will go out on the 13th of July. The competition will end on the 18th of July, 2022. And that is when we will choose the winners and sit down. Thank you guys very, very much. And let's get back on with the podcast. There we go, folks. That's great news about the competition. Let's get ourselves back into the podcast. So you've mentioned it a few times, Gordie. Your class as a driver coach, which I find really interesting as you are a 20-year-old. Obviously, you're a credible driver, so there's no question of that. But do you find as a 20-year-old you get faced with some challenges as a driver coach?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when like if you ever have like a kind of argument with your parents, what they always say is, "Oh, well, I'm older than you, got more experience." So obviously, when it comes to driver coaching, those that are older, a majority of them are absolutely fine, and they're totally open. But you do have the kind of ones that are like, well, how it's just like kind of like still, oh well, I'm a bit older, got a bit more experience, but it's like, yeah, but I'm racing at a lot higher level. I've got a lot of experience of doing it, so you kind of should listen to what I'm telling you. But yeah, it's a little bit of a challenge. But in all, I'll say that that's maybe only been 4 or 5 at most out of like all the people that have driver coaching. I've been a little bit like that. But apart from that, every single AM that I've worked with has been absolutely exceptional with receiving and taking on information. All of the juniors are actually absolutely fantastic at taking in information. There's a couple of times where it's like with the juniors, just because they're in their teenage years and they're a little bit, kind of rebellious. You'll tell them one thing and they'll go out and they'll do another. I remember I had that with one of our drivers, Liam, last year at Knockhill. Kept on doing, the first 2 corners of Knockhill absolutely flat out, and that was just screwing turn 3 for him.
I was gonna say, yeah.
And then we eventually got that sorted out, and he went double pole position. And it was a kind of moment of he came into the pits, and I was just like, "Told you so," kind of thing. But no, like he's an absolutely fantastic little driver. But it's like almost all of the drivers that I work with it's more of anything. The few occasions with when you're working with the public and stuff as an instructor, that it's every now and then where you kind of get the because they like the thing with working with AMs or the junior drivers, they're in motorsport and they understand what I have behind me, what I've done, and they understand why I'm coaching them. But when you're an instructor and you're young working with the public, it's like it's a bit trickier because they don't know who you are and they don't know what you've done, which is totally fine. I understand that, but yeah, that's where it gets that's where it gets tricky.
I can imagine. I would hate having somebody go, "I know better than you," and it's like you don't. So there we go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So what's a normal session for a driver coach look like? I imagine you can't be trackside at every single event, every single person's track day. So is there a lot of like video analysis study and like telemetry study and data study?
Yeah, I mean we tried to be at like wherever we are.
Or do you try to bring them to you almost in a way then? So I'd be like, well,
we kind of like whenever they are driving, we do try to be where they are because like that being there in person is really, really important. I'd say that's by far the most effective way. Doing it over Zoom or on the internet probably means that that's later on in the day. It's not directly after the session, and therefore a lot of the information of the session that they've just done is no longer present in their head.
Right.
So it's very, very important that you're there in person to sit down, pull the data from the car, and do it within. You quite literally let them get a bottle of water, and then you drag them into the room to go through the data and telemetry.
Oh wow.
Just so everything is very, very fresh in their mind. Yeah, absolutely, just straight away. Really, really, really important. So yeah.
Well, that sounds like a very rewarding job to have, and it also sounds really fun in terms of getting to pass on the knowledge. Like, is that the part you enjoy about it the most?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have I think one of the most rewarding ones that you can do is doing, driver coaching with junior drivers. Like of course, I drove with Fox for many years, from when I was quite 15, 16, and then I'm now in the position 5 years later where I'm now one of the driver coaches in that team, looking after and driver coaching the juniors, which is a really, really cool thing. But it's really, really rewarding seeing a junior progress and mature in their driving style and get good results because of hard work that they've put in. So yeah, it's absolutely very, very rewarding, especially with the juniors.
Wow. Well, following on nicely that from you helping younger juniors achieve their future goals and set them up for the future, what does the future of Gordie Mutch look like? Do you have a sort of plan at the moment, or are you just going, as long as I'm in a car racing, I'm happy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you always kind of have to look at what's next. So yeah, we I have a good idea of where I'll be going and stuff. But yeah, apart from that, unfortunately.
Oh, is it all hush hush?
Like of course, I think we've definitely got some exciting things. But for now, I still need to finish the job for this year. Our aim is to win the championship this year. Even if you do have something around the corner, you're only as good as your last race.
Yeah.
So the focus is still fully on this year, and then once that new year, once my last race happens this year, then I can refocus on next year.
Yeah.
But I think my career is looking promising, and I'm very happy with the way things are moving. But yeah, I unfortunately I want out. I need to I need to.
You're on a good track. There's a job to do. There's no point worrying about the next one.
There's a job to do for now, and of course when I can talk more about it, I'll talk more about it.
Amazing. I'm just gonna keep dropping hints now. I'll just keep sending you texts. Be like, how's your French? You picked out a house in central France.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I guess you'll see.
We'll see. I'm excited to watch it go. And you're going to be keeping on the classic cars, I hope, though, because that Jaguar.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. As long as the people that I drive with want to keep racing their cars, then yeah, I'll keep racing the classics. But it's probably a paddock that I'll actively try to be involved with, because it's a great place to be, and it's great fun.
It's amazing. I'd love to go in there and just talk to people, because I feel like they'd be such interesting stories to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. You meet a lot of interesting people in that paddock, and obviously in that paddock, people are there for the cars. You find another, the professional paddocks.
Yeah.
It's quite intense. It's quite full on. It's very professional. Of course, it's racing. We love it very much. We enjoy it very much. We're very lucky to do what we do. It can get a lot at times. So to have a weekend where everyone is there purely for the love of cars is very refreshing. Yeah.
That sounds like a dream.
Yeah.
Sounds like a dream where everybody's there for the love of something and there's not ulterior motives going on.
Yeah.
But I am going to ask you, in terms of goals, have you got, people talk about their vision boards, their mood boards. Is there one sort of big goal you kind of have written that what's the day when you would go, I'll say I've made it when this event happens? Do you have one of those? Not to put all the pressure on you at 20 years old, obviously, but
I'd say like being like a full factory GT racing driver. That's where I want it. That's where I want my career to be, a professional GT driver. Racing in something like Le Mans for a manufacturer, racing in something like Spa or Bathurst for a manufacturer. I'd say that is that I've done myself well.
I would be living vicariously through you if that happened. I'll be perfectly honest, because that is my dream. But I'm unfortunately 98 kg and I'm not that good a driver, so I don't think I'll ever get
mate, in all fairness about like at the start of 2021, throughout 2021 last year, I was about 102, 103 kilos. So I'm now weighing about 77 kilos. So I've lost about 27 kilos, because I got to a point in my career, it's just like, well, if I do, manufacturers will look at me, and as soon as they, regardless of the results, it's not about the results, it's also about image as well, and how you present yourself. And I did not look like a professional driver, and that was a big problem. So, I basically, said to myself, it's just like, if you don't lose weight now, you're not going to have a career in this sport. So yeah, just started waking up at 5 o'clock every single morning, trained every single day until I'd lost about 27 kilos.
So yeah. Well done. So that's impressive.
Yeah,
Wow.
a lot of
So
weight. You pick up 27 kilos in the gym, and you're like,
yeah.
wow, I've lost that body weight. And sometimes I still do it in the gym, like pick up, a 25 kilo dumbbell, and just think I've lost more than this.
I used to carry this around,
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just better. I look more professional than ever. I'm operating at an extremely high level, and I feel like I'm doing my job very, very well. So I think if I keep on going along this route, then I of course with certain opportunities that I have on the horizon, I think I've got a very good chance of making a career in this sport.
I could not agree with you more. After watching you race, could not agree with you more, sir.
So thank you very much. Cheers.
And I'm not just blowing smoke up your arse because because I'm it's a bad toxic trait I have. I say was on mine. I want to talk about it at the end. I really didn't want to put this in the podcast at the beginning or the middle because this is the Gordie Mutch episode. It's not as every single sort of news article seems to be of Jimmy Broadbent's racing partner Gordie Mutch. This is Gordie Mutch.
Yeah.
So let's talk about Gordie Mutch's racing partner Jimmy Broadbent. Let's do it that way.
Yeah.
How was it getting? Because obviously you probably knew Jimmy prior. It wasn't just a meeting at first sight, but getting introduced to his world, because as we discussed before we came on stage, he has a massive community, a very loyal community, a bloody good community, as we both said.
Yeah,
in terms of YouTube
absolutely.
space.
Yeah.
Because I'm a YouTube kid, so I've almost watched you from the other angle. Like it's quite weird. What's it like racing with Jimmy? Like how does that world? How is it getting involved in that world?
Yeah, no, it's obviously I've been involved with the big thing with me and Jimmy and why it works is we both have a huge involvement in sim racing.
Yeah,
he's made his career through sim racing, and for me, it's also a huge part of mine. So I've got involved with what he does in terms of live streams and stuff. Like doing races with him on iRacing. So his viewers and fans have got to know me in the process as well. And now, of course, I feature heavily in his videos with the Praga Racing series. It's a really, really great platform for me to present my skills. So it's a great opportunity to have Jimmy as a teammate, but also as well, in terms of AM drivers go, Jimmy is a fantastic AM driver, and what people really forget is that he's only in his second year in a racing car, and this racing car is very high aerodynamic. It's hard physically. It's extremely fast, much faster than a GT3 car on some circuits. So to be properly thrown into the deep end in this car, he is doing an exceptional job, an absolutely exceptional job.
Not to forget, you guys are top of the championship as well at the moment.
It's we're leading the championship. We're I think the first year in 2021, I think Jimmy, I think he'd agree that he perhaps felt a little bit out of his depth. That in his first year he was happy to be there, and I think now that I'm there pushing him and unlocking his potential, that he is now switched into this year especially, and he realized it the last round at Donington when we got both the wins. For this year, he's in a different mode this year than what he was last year. He's in a much more competitive mode and mindset.
Yeah,
he's not there to go out and try get a podium. He goes out there expecting to be on the podium.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. But
that is a huge mind shift state as well, to go from I want to win to second is a disappointment. That is a huge
Yeah, and
mindset.
that's tricky to manage in itself, because that's where mistakes happen. You know, if you go out there expected to be on the podium, you then put pressure upon yourself,
Yeah.
and that's something, you know, that also, as the pro driver, you need to try and manage that within your AM driver as well. So you're also, as much as you can within your ability, you're also trying to aid your driver mentally on the weekend, which is another very, very important aspect. Um, so, but but yeah, I think one big support that Jimmy has is is his fans, his viewers. I think, you know, when you look at a lot of YouTubers, you look at their communities and their fans, and sometimes it can be quite harsh. It can be quite toxic. But Jimmy's community is, and I've learned this as well, because they've kind of adopted me into it as well. Is they're just so damn supportive of Jimmy. They love him to pieces. When Jimmy needs some time, they give him the time and they support him. And you know, I think that's really special. It's really nice to see. And with me, of course, they've got a huge amount of support from me as well, with my work with Jimmy. Um, and yeah, they're hugely supportive, and you know, really quite praising of the work that I do, which is really nice to see. It's nice to get recognition. It's nice to know that you're doing your job well. So that's something that, I think, where Jimmy's fans and community are really quite unique. That you look through, you know, his comments on his videos, and everybody there is just so proud of him and just supporting him fully. And that's just, yeah, it's just so awesome to see that within a community where, you know, a lot of YouTubers, it's it can get a little bit messy, but with Jimmy, it's just, you know, everyone, like his fans and supporters are just so lovely.
Wow. I mean, I'm a viewer of Jimmy. I'm aware. I know who Jimmy is. I'm a subscriber of Jimmy. So as I think I mentioned earlier, I first stumbled across you through Jimmy's videos, and then took my own path and became a Gordie Mutch fan as much as I'm a Jimmy
Yeah,
Broadbent fan.
yeah,
But I kind of want to. So similar to the Roman Grosjean aspect, how much have you learned from these two? Because obviously there's different skills that they just have just through the positions they're in, almost off the track. Like, have you learned anything from them, almost about, like, you know, kind of like the business side of motorsport, or like the mentorship side? Because it must be quite different for you, as who is, like you said, you're a pro driver, you're the example, you're the driver coach. But then there obviously is some aspects where Jimmy he's from that world, you know, like the sponsorships, the branding kind of side. And obviously
yeah.
Roman comes from the world of F1.
I think a little bit. I think, you know, what I've learned from Jimmy is it is important to have a personality. Um, you know, obviously, I think in motorsport, I think one aspect that people do, they execute everything really well, but it's still very important that, you know, you have to come across well, and you have to be liked.
Yeah.
And that can be the difference between, you know, being successful and getting stuck in gear. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, like I think definitely, you know, that come across well and having a good personality that people get along with and people like is also definitely an aspect. Yeah.
I mean, I think the same. I say this at the time because obviously, as I said, like, I've got a back. My day job is marketing, and I
Yeah.
think Drive to Survive, if you look at the statistics of it, is the greatest bit of marketing any company slash sport has ever done, because it saved
Yeah.
what was really struggling as a sport of F1 as a branch of a sport, and now
Yeah,
it's the most
absolutely.
popular
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like F1, I think is a huge part of it is it's due to drive to survive.
Yeah.
And like recently is definitely, you know, motorsport has become a popular thing. You know, like it's like growing up, you know,
Yeah.
it was, you know, it was a popular thing to like football. You know, it was just, you know, it was just custom, you know.
Especially in Scotland.
Yeah. Well, in Scotland, I'd say probably rugby was just as popular. Maybe more. Maybe I think that was the sport that we always done better, so maybe that's why. But yeah, no, I absolutely, it's become a lot more popular, and I think it's one of the biggest things is it's becoming popular to like racing.
Yeah.
So you see all these huge influencers, like the Sidemen's a big example. We of course we did that karting race with
I was gonna say,
yeah, it's on the cart the Buckmore 24 with the Sidemen. Those guys were just lovely. People like Ethan, Will Lenny, lovely, like genuinely like lovely guys. And these guys have got
millions of subscribers.
huge amount of fans behind them. Yeah, huge. They're a huge influence. So to see them, getting behind and kind of sharing their love for the sport with the viewers, then those viewers look into it and they love it more. But it's like more and more people of big influence that have lots of fans are showing their kind of love for Formula One and racing, to the point where it really is becoming extremely popular nowadays. So yeah, it's been quite cool to see. Yeah.
Which is good for all of us, because eventually they'll learn.
Yeah, it's great for everyone.
Then they'll learn that endurance racing is better than Formula One anyway, and then we can have our casual elitism back.
Well, I mean, I think if you look at like the kind of business aspect of the sport, I mean, obviously Formula One is king because of the pure amount of sponsors and the money involved with it.
Cash is king. Cash will always be king.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think GT, we're in a golden age at the minute. With how GT racing is going at the minute, it is massive. It is huge. GT3 is the biggest form of motorsport that we have had in decades. Easily. And of course GTE has moved out, and GT3 is coming into the mall. Now we have the hypercars coming with all of these manufacturers, with Lamborghini, with Peugeot, with
Cadillac, Ferrari.
Cadillac, with Porsche, with Ferrari. We are in an absolute golden age of the sport at the minute, easily. And I think we're it's going to be really, really exciting over the next few years to see how the sport progresses, as it's, I think, more now than ever, or more than in a long time. Motorsport is getting the spotlight for the first time in a very long time. Yeah.
And more eyes means more fans, means better racing. Everything works in circles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, like I said earlier, fans.
It's a fan sport.
It's a spectacle. It's a spectator sport. Fans make the sport. So, the more interest that the sport gets, the more fans that we get. I think the bigger and better things become. So, I think we're in an extremely exciting time for motorsport at the minute, especially with what's going on with the hypercars and with Le Mans. So I'm actually, I think young drivers are actually in a bit of a fortunate spot at the minute, as long as they can make it work. To be in motorsport at the minute, because I think it's a fantastic time to be there. However, I get how I left karting at the correct time with how expensive things were getting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been quite lucky with my timing. I've worked very hard to and my family's sacrificed a lot to help me to be where I am. But from here, it's on me. For the past year or two, it's it's been full on. Yeah.
Well, I think that you've actually rounded off the podcast quite nicely there. Well, the main part anyway. We've still got obviously the iconic question at the end, but Gordie, I've had so much fun talking to you today. I've really enjoyed this. We've had a mammoth one. We've managed to hit the 1 minute 40 mark. So that's a good, or the 1 hour 40 mark.
1 hour 40, yep.
Yeah. So now we just need to end it with our fan favorite question. You've got the team ready. I'll paint a stipulation for you. You've reached your big end goal of the factory driver GT3 car, whichever manufacturer you're choosing. We're not going to paint a label on it. I'm not going to burn any bridges. Just been handed the big trophy. You've just won the WEC or you've won the Le Mans, whichever one you choose. Somebody goes, Gordie, you've got to get 3 songs to get this whole pit crew ready for a big night out. What 3 songs are you choosing and why?
Absolutely, starting off, we've just won.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the biggest thing that we can possibly win is absolutely we are the champions by Queen.
Iconic, good choice. Great choice.
Absolutely, you know, because it just sums up the, you know, the situation perfectly. You know, because there's a lot of hard work that goes into it. So I'm sure everyone would be singing that on.
Mm-hmm.
For a second song, I'd probably go to get everyone ready, like a pumped up song.
Yeah.
It's probably Gold Dust by DJ Fresh.
Great choice.
Yeah,
great choice.
Yeah, it's a really wicked tune. Yeah, just to get everyone, like, you know, pumped, you know,
Yeah.
like ready and pumped up and everything. And then oh man, I have to go, you know, like just like, you know, like I loved the film Trainspotting. So I'd have to go with Born Slippy, if you know that song.
Great choice.
Yeah, like, because everyone, like, you know, just like when that car comes on, like everyone's just like, you know, bobbing their head, like, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom.
you
So,
don't even know you're doing it until it's too late.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's but I need to start off with We Are the Champions for sure.
Well, Gordie, there's nothing left to do but try that one again.
Yeah.
Well, Gordie, there's nothing left to do now but say the outros. As I just said before, I've had such a pleasure doing this. This has really been not only an eye-opening experience for me, but I really hope it's got, because my listeners come from various different grounds because the guests differ so much. But thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed this. I know I'm going to be keeping in touch with whatever you're up to and keeping going on and waiting with bated breath. So where can they follow you on social media to keep up with all the events?
Absolutely. So I mean, one of the best places to basically follow what I'm doing, the results, is on Instagram, which is just Gordie Mutch Racing. Twitter as well, which I think is Gordie_Mutch, or it's _Gordie_Mutch_ because for some reason when I created it, I loved underscores so much.
Some variation of underscores and Gordie Mutch Racing.
Yeah, just Gordie Mutch on Facebook as well. Yeah, it's just nice and simple. If you look up Gordie Mutch Racing, you'll probably just find me on everything pretty much.
Amazing.
Yeah.
All Gordie's links will be in the description below as well, so that always helps everything. See, I'm a YouTuber now. I know, like and subscribe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like and subscribe. Yeah.
Jimmy's got nothing on me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So coming on to that, folks, as I just said, leave likes, leave ratings, leave reviews. I love constructive criticism because I always want to know how I get better. I'm sure Gordie will give me some after this because coaching never stops. All constructive criticism will be taken on board. I like to do it. If you're just going to be mean, bad news for you. I've got quite thick skin, so just make it funny and then I'll steal some retweets off you that way. That's all I've got to say about the mean comments. Have a good one. Leave likes. Thank you very much. We'll be back again next week. Cheerio. Follow Gordie. Bye. See you soon. Cheerio.